So I think as we went into Thursday,
Yeah.
and even looking at the topic we discussed today, religion, it's a constant topic that keeps recurring.
Yeah.
This idea, particularly with regards to the African church.
Mm.
And I wonder, what do you feel has been the impact of religion, particularly Christianity, which is more predominant
Yeah.
across Africa, and even the other, sort of organized religions?
Oh, religion is it has been a heavy topic all week. Actually, every week, especially
every
on
week I think we're
philosophical
always
Tuesdays.
discussing it. Eh?
Philosophical Tuesdays, it's always religion. It just shows the influence of religion in the Black community. And like we said in the space today, that religion and logic cannot live in the same head, because once you are religious, it's going to evict your logic. Now you're going to start sounding ridiculous and impractical, and it also inflates your ego now, because you think you're high and mighty, you think you're more consecrated than other people. Other people are evil, other people are living a wrong life. You are living this prestige life that God favors, and you are eventually going to go to heaven. But at the end of the day, we are all fighting the same fight. And this religion is not helping, because instead of fighting poverty, instead of fighting for opportunities, we are fighting each other. Now, I cannot be in a business relationship with you because because you are Hindu, or maybe because you are Muslim and I'm Christian. But at the end of the day, we are Black. We are fighting the same fight. And it's not even practical, especially Christianity now. It's not even practical to us, because what we are doing, it has become it's like Christianity has become it's this starving pig, and it's always eating. So no matter how much you feed this pig, it never really gets satisfied, because what we are doing is we're always taking from our pockets and giving, but it never gives back. Now it has started to be a transaction. And the argument was also with the existence of God, of which everybody has their own unique experience about who God is. And we cannot entirely claim that God is not there. And I don't know, but I cannot entirely claim that God is not there. But the God that has been productized and sold to us, it's not the God that should be the God of creation. And the Jesus that has been branded, packaged, and productized to us, it's not the Jesus that we should be receiving. George even went to a point that this Jesus that they are obsessed with, one day Jesus will come to the church and then they won't even realize that Jesus was even there. And he's probably going to be speaking the most red pill message that they've ever heard. And they're going to reject that message, because what we've been doing with this religion is we've been accepting lies, we've been practicing lies. Everything that has come to us, we just consume without questioning. So probably when the real Jesus comes back, he's going to come back with this red pill message that is going to shock everybody. And now we are used to telling ourselves lies, entertaining with ourselves with lies. Now, when the truth comes, it's going to be offensive to us. So that's how we talked about religion, particularly in our economics, more in economics, because we know that everywhere where a Black man adopted religion, it came with a tool of colonization. Religion didn't come independent of itself. There was always colonization and there was religion. Take this Hinduism, take this Muslim, take this Jesus. They are your saviors and you should not question it. So that was the argument in religion.
It's interesting. There's a town or a city in Kenya called Nakuru.
Yeah.
It's about 3 hours northwest of Nairobi. And I remember when growing up, we used to have school trips to that town. where I used to live was it's about 4 hours from where we used to live. And of course, the school trip was around visiting factories, industries. So this place was one of the industrial bases of Kenya. It is in many sense, but very highly depleted now. So it was one of the industrial bases of Kenya, and it is also a town around agriculture areas. So actually where it is located, it's in one of the provinces, or rather it is in the province that is our food basket.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the food we consume is produced from many of the cities and towns around Nakuru. So, you know, they used to bring a lot of their produce there. Now, that was in the 90s. As I was growing up. What has happened now, if you go down to the town, most of those factories are no longer there. You go down, drive to the industrial area of that town, what you will see, and what has been flourishing more, I think from the 90s through to the 2000s, has been churches.
Oh, man.
Actually, there's a particular industry that is on the up and up. Is ministry this, ministry that. And if I look at it and say, actually, and this was a question that was relayed by George to one of the contributors, was what has been the impact of the church to Africa? Has it been good or bad? And I think in totality, if you combine everything, the impact has not been good at all. It has not been good. We've literally killed off the very things that should be given us livelihoods. Of course, there have been other factors that have probably contributed to this. I think one of the things is our production costs have gone higher. Of course, you've got the China influence. But all in all, the church has not in any way like changed people's behaviors. You know, we've not adopted like good values of integrity, of hard work, of productiveness. It has not. I think it has just kept us captivated in this reality which we don't live in. Even in my own sort of village where my parents stay, I do have a relative who started a church. And I remember in one of the discussions we've had with him was, how can the church have a better impact in that society? And there were more churches that were coming up. In a very small village, the one thing that kept growing was churches. And then you find, and I think you probably relate to this, one thing that you realize is people spend many hours in churches, not just on a Sunday. There'll be something happening in between the week. There'll be a fellowship and this meeting
there'll
and
be
that.
intercession, there'll be crusades,
Crusades.
It's just a lot, yeah.
And these things are just taking us away from productive activities that we should be involved in, as opposed to being in a church environment. And I've always, you know, and I'm also pretty much like you, in high school, I joined this, what here we call it a Christian Union.
Yeah.
That's where I first got born again. And it carried on through my early adulthood. Now, one thing for sure, the other Sunday I was talking to someone and she asked, "Are you a Christian?" And I couldn't say for certain that I am. And it's because of now looking at things in reality and seeing how the church has been a distraction, how the church has just consumed us into nonsense. Just a lot of bullshit. A lot of bullshit. Uh, the other thing that I've always found, I used to go to church, and then to some degree, it used to be like when I don't go, it's like I have some kind of a guilt that I didn't go to church.
If you don't give offering, there's also a guilt attached to it.
Exactly. And then I realized, honestly, I don't enjoy church. If I can be honest with myself and with everyone, I don't enjoy church. And I think the whole format of a church environment is I don't find it uplifting. One, you have this guy talking to us, we don't ever get to question.
True.
People come in, and mostly they are coming in with a certain posture. I'm in the church compound, and they're the most pious and good, but they come out of that environment and they are a totally different kind of person. So the church just, we are acting. We are presenting who we are not to one another, particularly in that environs of a church, or whenever we create a church environment with these fellowships and this kind of a thing. We are never true to one another. The context in any way, I don't live there feeling inspired, feeling energized, feeling like, okay, you might have one or two times there's a good sermon, but all in all, there are many things that if I do them over and over again, I find them enriching me every single time. And church is not one of them. And I can say that for a fact. And then that idea that it takes us away from reality. We don't see. Actually, the other thing we debated a lot today was this concept of prayer. And I never thought of it, whenever you're in these spaces, Kibe likes to poke people. Very good questions. I don't know if you've ever watched, there's a comedy show called Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you ever watched it?
Yes. I've seen it before.
Larry David. So there's a skit where, the concept of prayer comes up. So he meets up with his friend. They're at a golf course setting. His friend, a day before, while they were having lunch in the country club, him and his friend, his dad collapsed. He probably had a heart stroke, and they took him to the hospital. So when they were meeting up again, he was asking, so how's your dad doing? He said, he's doing well. So he said, then give him my best. Then his friend replies back and says, why don't you say a prayer for him? And it's a logical request, But then he started asking, prayer? He said, I can do that. He said, one, I don't know how to do it. Do I put my hands together? Do I kneel down? So he was asking him, how does he do it? Then at some point he said, so you are praying and you want me to pray. So, and because both of them are Jewish, he said, my friend replied back and said, prayer has been in the Jewish culture for a while. So the way he explained it, it felt like prayer is like I'm lobbying God. So I'm praying, you're also praying. So the more voices we add to it, I believe it will have an impact of what will happen. And then that completely changed my mind. I'll send you that clip. Is there a purpose for prayer, really?
Or is it like what Kibe like to say, is it happening in your imagination? It's you talking to your own imagination.
It's all in your head, talking to your imagination.
Because think about it. We resort to prayer because we think that we are powerless. That, you know what, I've done the best that I can. The rest that I can live for is for God. And God will do his miracle. I'm going to wave this magic wand. There is prayer, which is prayer. I'm going to put out a request. God is going to take that request. He's going to cancel every appointment he has. and he's going to focus on that request, and then he's going to ensure that he makes it happen. But if God really created man, and he created man into his own image, would he create something that is powerless? Because he himself is not powerless. And he absolutely wouldn't want us to have this dependency or this imaginary dependency. So everything that we have, or every tool that is required to solve a certain problem, we've already been provided for, and we can solve these problems. But when we resort to prayer and our own imagination, then we are depriving ourselves that opportunity to solve the problem, because we think that what we are powerless. It also comes with a low-key laziness. You know, how we approach
100%.
religion, it's low-key laziness, because we are the poorest of all races, yet we believe in this big imagination, this big idea that can take us out of poverty, but it is further drowning us into more poverty.
Yeah, it's kind of, as George mentioned in one of his submission, it's a mediocrity
Yeah,
in a sense. It drives us from action, basically.
true.
And there's a friend who told me, believe in action. If there's something that you have to believe in, is
Yeah.
at least if you engage your mental faculties and execute on something, that's all you need to do. That, in a sense, I think is the ultimate prayer. Your actions
Mm-hmm.
in, towards whatever you're trying to get up to. I know people also talk about probably there are forces that are beyond us.
Yeah.
People say sometimes even the most hardworking might not have the output they expect.
Yeah.
You might have two people still doing the same thing. What makes one successful over the other?
Uh-huh.
If all things are constant, one seems to do better and the other not, but they're all doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How would you explain that? And I know many
True.
people, when they talk of the aspect of God and the aspect of prayer, is to show that, after the human effort, there is something much more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I actually now I can relate with what you said when the lady said that, are you a Christian? And you couldn't relate anymore because you don't know anymore. I
I don't
mean,
know. I
I
really
don't
don't
know.
know.
Like I was really deep into Christianity, but you get to see that it really does not work for you. And when you see people subscribing into it, look at Bushiri's congregant. I didn't want to name drop, but look at Bushiri's congregant. When he was when he was detained in South Africa, and the people came to court, and the people said some of the most ridiculous things. Like they were not practical. It was like they were brainwashed. Like it was like they were brainwashed because you couldn't have a logical a conversation with them that, okay, your pastor has been accused of so and so, of money laundering, has been accused of corruption, he has been accused of so and so. What do you say? Even Jesus was accused. Even Luke, remember, Paul was accused. They could never have a logical. They would always go back to this Bible, go back to this religion, because it lets them off the hook. You know, the Bible says that there will be trials and tribulations, but they won't say, okay, yes, he's accused for this, but let the justice take its course. I think he's innocent until he's proven guilty. But they will say some of the most ridiculous things that you could ever imagine, because there's no logic there. There's no logic.
Yeah, and I guess that's what religion tries to make us to
Yeah,
go away from reasoning, and reason has to be what we use. I mean,
true.
as a human being, I should question if God put a brain in me, which
Yeah.
this is a questioning device that seeks to understand things. Why can I not question? I should
Mm-hmm.
question. Why? Why
Mm.
Christianity? In most senses, I take up Christianity because I was born in a Christian country within a
Yeah.
Christian family. So there are certain circumstances that sort of led me to where I am. But have I created that from within myself, or have I just adopted
Yeah.
something that I have been given? Um, yeah, and I think reason has to be primary
Mm-hmm.
uh, as part of our existence in this world. But I think also there's one thing that Kibe always asks: why do you need the need? Why do you have this need to believe?
Yeah.
And I kept asking myself, actually, when I was meeting with this lady last weekend, when we were talking about that aspect of God and Christianity, and I realized maybe there are certain things that occupy my mental bandwidth that I shouldn't be
Mm.
worried about. I mean, animals, for God's sake, live probably the most best life ever. They live by whatever God has programmed in them. They know if it's a lion, I'll wake up, I need to go hunt.
Yeah.
When I've hunted, I'll just go sleep under the tree and I'll live my best life. But I think as human being, to some degree, and I'm not saying that we just rest on our laurels and not question and build and
Mm.
create things. But maybe certain things never need to take up our mental faculties and spend time with them. I'm alive. I'm happy I'm alive. All I need to do is enjoy my life and make the best of it instead of being caught up in this aspect of I need to show
Yeah.
gratitude, I need to do whatever. If I lose it tomorrow, then I've lost it.
Yeah.
Um, if I have it now, I think the best thing that I can do is make use of it.
Mm.
And there was a statement, I think also when you are responding to where you stand in terms of are you an atheist or a God believing person, and I wish you can also repeat that again, is there's a statement that once I think George mentioned, and I don't know if he even remembers this. He said, maybe what God desires for us is the best way we can honor him is to live
Yeah.
a life as though God does not exist. I think he
Yeah.
said something to that respect. I don't know if you remember
Mm.
that.
Yeah. I remember that.
And it made me realize maybe that's what we need. We spend
Mm.
time discussing this concept of God, but I think it occupies us. It takes us off from
Yeah.
the real life that we are tackling now to try and figure out a life that we are not in or a
True.
reality
True.
that we don't
True.
live in. Well, why should we think about it?
Yeah. Because this concept of God, even though we know that he's good, he's the Almighty, omnipotent, and he's supposed to bring peace and unite the world. But in actual fact, when we have these conversations amongst ourselves, it creates a lot of division. You know, it goes against who God is, who we all understand God to be. But once we have these conversations, I'll come with my own version of God. You'll come with your own version of God. The other person will come with their own version of God, and there'll be like a long, never-ending turmoil, and we'll drag each other into the maze, go deeper into the maze, and there won't be a solution at the end of the day. And in these cases, you cannot strongly disagree with the other person without offending them. And but when it comes to the devil, like I said, when it comes to the devil, we all know who the devil is. He lies, he kills, he destroys. We don't turmoil when we have a conversation about the devil as much as we have a conversation about God. So it means that we have more knowledge about the devil than we know about God. Because if we knew enough about God, we wouldn't have these much questions that lead into more questions. So in the space, I said that I am neither Christian, I am neither atheist, but I'm a person who's having a human experience. Yes, there's God, but I don't want to take this God that I've been sold to, and I also don't want to take this side. So let me rather live a human experience, live a human experience, live life to the best of my ability. Try to be good where I can and try to be resolute where I can. But at the end of the day, I really wish that sometimes when I pray, I pray that I say, first of all, I don't know who I'm praying to. I don't know you by name. I don't know if you exist. So the best thing that I wish that you can do for me is to actually explain who you are personally. That's some of the prayers. I try to be as frank as I can to God, who we claim that he hears everything. So that's what I tell him. I don't know you. I don't know the story about Jesus. The pastor is telling me this. The other person is telling me this. I don't know what I should do. So if you can just explain who you are to me. So the best way to live my life is to enjoy this human experience, enjoy this conversations that we are having, this podcast that we are having, these spaces, this content creation, create business, become someone, and enjoy this experience of becoming a human being, because it only comes once. I don't know what's going to happen next in the next world.
And why do we have to concern to ourselves? And I think that's probably what Kibe, in a sense, was alluding to. What you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, true.
And instead of trying to come up with theories or trying to create something that, and then you have to ask yourself, is this also a good use of my time?
Uh-huh.
And that's why I'm saying, do we put a lot of mental bandwidth on things that we shouldn't? I mean, even a baby, think of a baby for some regard. A baby really doesn't concern itself on these things. And that's why I guess we need to learn more from babies.
True.
The simplicity of life. You just wake up, the sun is out. Definitely, I'm happy because the sun is out. Enjoy it. Enjoy, just have life. And I think we get consumed and get caught up in all this God stuff. We forget life.
Yeah.
And I think this is the whole sort of message of what we were discussing this past week. I mean, there's a lot, and but these conversations are still going to be going on.
True.
And we'll be discussing them as they come along. Really focused on how to build the man, and how to grow the man in every way possible, understanding ourselves and how we can grow in our respective spheres wherever we are. I don't know if you have any parting words as we close this first podcast. And I want to just say thank you again for your time and wisdom, for joining me as I launch my first podcast. I'll call it a podcast. I don't know what this is. A conversation, whatever.
Yeah. Thank you so much for even thinking that I would be your first guest. I don't take advantage of that. I don't take that lightly. It's actually important. We have started something that is much more bigger than ourselves, and it's the first step that is going to lead into 1,000 more steps. So I'm really grateful. My closing statement would be that life is not watching the sun rise from the east and set from the west, watching the clock tick away from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. p.m. in the evening. Life is a collection of experiences. And these experiences make us. So we have to live life with collecting these experiences, creating these experiences. It's like we are creating an album of our life events. And if our families or our children get to see this album, they would be like, wow, he really lived a life of influence. This is a life that I want to be. This is the man that I want to be led by. So that would be my closing statement as men, and that we really, really need to focus on ourselves, build our masculine energy, and fatten our wallet, because we can be diplomatic about money as we want, but money is important. Um, Actually, from a piece of the Bible says that money answers all questions or answers all problems, meaning that he who has money has answers to all the problems. So when you have money, you have answers to problems, you have flexibility, and you have options. So we really have to build our masculine energy. We really have to fatten our wallet. We really have to sharpen our minds, and we have to make sure that we set goals and actually achieve them. Live a life of influence. Go as far as going to achieving our most ambitious goals. So that would be my closing statement for men.
I couldn't say it any better. I'm not going even to add anything to it. We'll keep it that way. Thank you very much. By the